Wood TV presents Veterans Voices, honoring those who serve.
Hello, and thank you for joining us for Veterans Voices, honoring those who serve. I'm Susan Shaw.
And I'm Brian Sterling. Over the next half hour, we'll introduce you to some of the brave men and women in West Michigan who have stepped up to the plate to protect our country.
We'll also shine a spotlight on the people in our community, making sure our veterans are taken care of. We begin with something far too many veterans are dealing with. That's a silent price many of them pay for their service.
I sat down with a Grand Rapids native who fought in the so-called Good War, who now knows it's okay to ask for help.
This is the original history of my ship.
A day after graduating Creston High School, 17-year-old Donovan Jocelyn enlisted in the U.S. Navy.
That's me.
And was soon shipped off to the South Pacific, stationed behind a 20-millimeter gun on board a minesweeper. He was introduced to the bloody realities of war almost immediately.
And a suicide plane came in, and it hit one of those transports, and it threw a bunch of sailors into the sea. And we couldn't save them because we had to take care of the fire or whatever it was on the troop ship that was damaged, got hit by the suicide plane. And so that was my first realization that war was war.
The year was 1944, and the war in the Pacific was inching toward its violent climax. Twice, his ship was hit by torpedoes that did not explode. Another time, a bomb hit the ship, but miraculously didn't detonate.
I think I grew up fast.
Jocelyn's ship escorted the battleship USS Missouri to Iwo Jima for the month-long battle that claimed nearly 7,000 American lives. He was there to see the Marines raise the flag as depicted in the Iwo Jima Memorial Sculpture, a monument Jocelyn has visited to pay tribute to those who didn't come home.
I went there too, and I prayed for her because there's so many of my fellow sailors that didn't make it.
Jocelyn, who grew up in Grand Rapids, tried to put the war behind him and came home to work as a machinist and later moved to management. He married his wife, Jacqueline, a union that lasted 72 years until her death just last year at the age of 90. But sadly, one of the realities of the so-called Good War on the Greatest Generation were the psychological and mental costs that were initially dismissed or glossed over.
You want me to tell you what they told me when I came home? Go home, grow up, and be a man. I did that. But I still had it all my life.
Donovan was ultimately diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. The images of war still come back, especially at night. Memories not simply confined to the pages of a history book, but very real images of the pain and suffering of war. This former Seaman First Class is adamant. He's not a hero. He's just a kid from Creston High, part of a generation that came together to sacrifice what they could to make the world a better place. A West Michigan group is doing its part to give our vets a proper goodbye, stepping up to make sure that they're never forgotten. Here's Marley Ginter.
This place is home.
Army veteran Rob Truce knows just about every inch of the Grand Rapids home for veterans. This is home, and the people here have become family.
And it makes me feel good because my family doesn't come to visit me. And at times I feel lonely.
That's where volunteers like Kim Flores come in.
You know, they gave so much for our freedom. And that's why we're here. That's why we have what we have. And these people, so many of them have no family and no friends. So we have to make sure that they're not forgotten and that they know that they're loved and cared for. So we all have to step up and do our part.
We saw that this summer when word got out that no family members would attend James Kelly's funeral.
James Ashworth Kelly was born the 10th of September 1926.
The U.S. Navy veteran died less than a month shy of his 93rd birthday. He lost his wife of 40 years in the 1980s, and with no family in the area, West Michigan responded in numbers.
Hey!
most complete strangers. Patriot Guard Assistant State Captain Mike Myers was there. He says that kind of showing is a boost to the Patriot Guard.
Because it shows that it's not just a brother or sister standing for a brother or sister. The whole community is involved in that honor and respect, coming out and thanking that service member for that service.
We have a lot of guys that have no family at all, and we become their family. And we are emotionally attached to them.
It's hard because so many people don't care, so many people do forget.
No veteran should ever pass and not be honored for the service that they provided to our country. Ever. Can't happen.
And West Michigan has proven it won't.
Homelessness among our nation's veterans continues to be a problem across the country. But in Kent County, there's one program that set out to put an end to that issue and find a stable home for every vet. And they did it. I spoke with the people leading Community Rebuilders.
We had a sheriff at the door ready to haul stuff out, and I mean, you couldn't really get more depressed than that.
If not for Community Rebuilders, Ricky Fute says he doesn't know where he and his family would be today after a back injury left him unable to work and feeling lost.
I had 3 kids to worry about, my wife, and I didn't know what to do, and I was at a really low point then.
Ricky is an Army veteran.
It's just right after they cut your hair.
Formerly stationed in Panama. He's one in a long line of generations committed to serving this country, dating all the way back to his great-great-grandfather in World War I.
So our family's always been in service.
But years later,
There's Oscar.
after moving home to Grand Rapids, a severe injury on the job left Ricky desperate and facing yet another housing transition.
Making sure that people have all of the supports around them that they need in order to stay stably housed. So,
Jeff King says the nonprofit is committed to connecting veterans with stable housing.
it took a little bit of a paradigm shift in our community away from a desire to provide emergency shelter to providing housing.
The Veterans Program is so successful with Community Rebuilders, it's now being used as an example nationwide, aligning a caseworker with each veteran.
So our staff really spent a lot of time making sure that people are plugged back into employment, healthcare, their neighborhood association, their church community, their kids' school, so that they continue to have all of those support networks around them for the long haul.
It was just a godsend because I would have never expected anything like that, ever.
Ricky says that support system was key to helping them with their specific situation.
And now we can worry about homework and Halloween outfits and, just the simple stuff instead of every day waking up, grinding your teeth thinking, what about today? Are we going to end up homeless? Or are we going to end up, do we have money to pay for this? Or can we have this? Everything is perfect for us. I mean, some people got to have all the amenities and all the toys and stuff, but, we have fun with what we have.
So important not to leave them behind. Change is in the air at the Grand Rapids Home for Veterans, the state-run home that was the source of some negative press and embarrassment because of how vets were being treated, has turned the page.
Leon Hendricks takes us to the storied facility and shows us what's changed and what's next.
Inside the walls at the Grand Rapids Home for Veterans, there are plenty of stories. Some of the more memorable public ones over the last decade have been terrible. But today, things have changed. And watching the future develop is now among the home's most popular pastimes. Lee Walton is among the 220 members currently living at the home. He served in the Air Force in the 60s and received outpatient services here for years. 3 years ago, the Grand Rapids Home for Veterans became his home.
There's no other place I'd rather be in this condition.
It was in the home's not-so-distant past that things were not as bright. After care at the home was outsourced to a private company called J2S, Lawsuits were filed claiming abuse, and this caught on video incident of a J2S employee shoving a man in his wheelchair resulted in criminal charges. And a scathing audit detailed publicly the home's failings.
And there was times where I was a little shy of saying where I worked.
Today, there is new leadership, new staffing companies in place, and things have turned around.
I feel like our legislation finally heard.
Changes already in place are just the beginning. This viewing room is overlooking the new home for veterans, under construction now. It will house 128 residents in private rooms with their own bathrooms. Leaders hope to have residents moving in by the spring of 2021. But it also begs a question.
Will there be people who are here, want to be here, that in spring of 2021 will be told, we don't have a place for you?
Absolutely not.
Carr says that some vets are using newly available benefits to get care they need closer to home. Others opting to go home with family, not needing the nursing care provided at the home for veterans. This is a $60 million investment.
Coming along.
Into people like Lee, who've served our country and now need us to serve them.
You can't go home anymore, so.
A new story here. And the best testament, perhaps, is from Walton, the one-word response when asked about his time at the Grand Rapids Home for Veterans.
Great.
Still ahead, we'll show you how a special court is helping area veterans get back on their feet after they slip up with the law.
But first, a brand new smile for a man who served in Vietnam. You'll meet the people who made it happen. In Ottawa County, the name Gary Cook is known in a lot of circles.
He's a baseball coaching legend, a staple in the community, and a Vietnam War veteran. And now he has a brand new bright white smile.
Lindsay McComal shares his journey.
First trip to the dentist was, I think I was a junior or senior in high school. I had a tooth that was right to the gum.
Gary Cook is a pretty familiar face around Jenison. He's in the Michigan High School Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame. His name is on the diamond in Jenison as well. Thanks to Fresh Start Dental Implants, his smile is now a bit brighter.
We call it emotional dentistry. And so, you know, it's kind of one of those things, it's close to the heart and it ties to something that we really feel strong about.
Dr. John McMahon's family practice teamed up with the group to change Cook's life as a thank you for his service.
I almost fell in my chair. I mean, I was shaking. I thought, you're kidding.
He's used partial dentures for years.
The embarrassment of talking and having it slip out a little bit. Or my wife gets on me, you're whistling, you're whistling.
That's really the amazing part about it, is we're able to take somebody who is embarrassed of their smile or not happy with it and not able to chew to you leave that day with a brand new set of teeth.
As a veteran myself, after serving 12 years in the Army, my wife and I decided that we wanted to settle down in Grand Rapids. Gary has a long history of service to his country, service to his community, so what better person to help out with.
I think he's going to recover well. I think he's going to turn out like a phenomenal case, and I think more than anything, he's going to be ecstatic.
How's this for your before and after?
Oh my gosh, what a wonderful team of people. I couldn't be more blessed with having more caring and sensitive, from the doctors to the nurses to the girls in charge and everyone.
Coming up next, getting on the right track.
We'll walk you through Kent County Veterans Treatment Court, a special program that helps vets turn their lives around. Stay with us.
Serving in the military can leave wounds that are unseen and lasting, and they can result in trouble readjusting to civilian life, and that can end with getting in trouble with the law.
Barton Dieter shows us a court that specializes in the unique issues that veterans face.
Jordan Hull now enjoys the fruits of domestic life with his wife and 15-month-old daughter at his Wyoming home. But this life was not assured for the 30-year-old Marine who, after deploying in Afghanistan in 2010, found himself struggling to readjust.
Afghanistan was pretty tough for me. My first 2 weeks, I lost my best friend to a drug overdose.
He returned home in 2012 to find he was not the person he was before he left.
After I got out, I was kind of a jerk. You know, I was short-tempered. I didn't want to be around anybody but other veterans because I felt like that was the only people that could kind of understand you.
Hull said he was angry and frustrated with the lack of order in civilian life.
I thought everybody was lazy and just arrogant and irresponsible, and it really irritated me.
His first marriage ended in divorce, and his second was headed that way, due in no small part to his heavy drinking.
What landed me in the Veterans Treatment Court program was a count of domestic violence. I didn't put my hands on anybody. I didn't hurt anybody, but it was just the screaming, the yelling, the losing my temper.
He found himself with a choice.
It was either that or jail, you know, so I definitely didn't want to go to jail, seeing as I'm a prior corrections officer.
You will get out of this what you put into it.
The program has been in place in Wyoming District Court for 5 years under the direction of Judge Pablo Cortez.
So I started seeing a lot of veterans come through more and more. They had problems, and they were almost always tied to some kind of substance abuse.
The judge says PTSD can change people's personalities and their reactions to authority. While the majority of participants are men, there are women who suffer, in addition to the typical military stressors, sexual abuse in the forces.
I don't have any other person on probation that's ever come here on their own. You know, it's always because they have to. A lot of these guys will come in on their own just to participate and be part of the group.
It was kind of like being back in my own unit, you know, brotherhood and sisterhood. There was a couple females in there. It's got your name on it, what branch you served with, too.
He remains friends with some of the people in the program.
Honestly, without that treatment court program, I don't think I'd be here right now. I'd be divorced. I'd probably be in some dark hole somewhere.
Coming up after the break, celebrating 100 years.
We'll introduce you to a World War II veteran who just hit the century mark. He takes us on his journey from the beaches at Normandy to serving the Grand Rapids community. That's next. The stories told by veterans of World War II are awe-inspiring, but every year more and more of the voices who bring the reality of the war to recent generations are falling silent.
Joe LaFurgey shares the story of one World War II veteran who made it to the century mark.
How you doing, John?
Pretty good, pretty good. At 100 years old, John Sinke still has a clear memory of the beaches at Normandy in June of 1944.
We landed about 4 or 5 days afterwards, and there was still a lot of action right close by. I was with a tank corps. There was very few of them come back from that. We heard a lot about everybody getting wiped out, you know, and everything, and we were just hoping we could make it.
While the first wave who hit the beach did their jobs, there was still plenty of danger ahead.
My sergeant, he was standing right by me when he got killed. A shell hit a building right next to us. A piece of shrapnel come right down through his helmet, and he fell right in my arms. And there was 6 of us, and there was only 2 of us come back. I was just lucky.
Sinke is one of a disappearing breed of storytellers who live the reality from tragedy to triumph of World War II. We sat down with Sinke during another milestone in his life, his surprise 100th birthday party.
What the hell are you doing here?
Huh? I couldn't miss this. This is all for you, to honor you, Dad. To honor you for your 100th birthday.
By any measure, reaching the century mark is an amazing accomplishment. But what sets John Sinke apart is what he did in that century. The photos and yearbooks set up for his party chronicle a life of service. He returned to Grand Rapids after the war, married and started a family. But when he found out the Grand Rapids Fire Department was hiring, he decided to continue service to his country, this time on the local level.
Throughout his 29-year career, he placed his life on the line for others.
Just don't ask him to brag about any heroics in his nearly 3 decades with a GRFD.
I got rescued a few times, I can tell you that, because I got burned a few times and that.
Likewise about his service during the war, but his daughter says his story is important and needs to be told.
Kids right from grade school should know these stories so they know where they've come from in this country.
Thanks for joining us today for Veterans Voices, honoring those who serve. And our coverage continues over at woodtv.com.
There you can find links to all of these stories, plus a lot more. We also have a list of resources for veterans who may be struggling with PTSD and more information about the programs we've highlighted today.
To our veterans from all of us here at News 8, thank you for your service.